Hello, everyone. My name is Patricia Green. I'm an architect living in Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica. I am Jamaican. It is a joy to participate in this seminar, 50th Anniversary Cultural Landscapes. It's part of the International Scientific Committee on Cultural Landscapes. Thank you so much, colleagues, for this opportunity and this wonderful session that has been going on. And I'd like to present my own paper on the Caribbean port city capitals as cultural landscapes. Now, the Antilles is the general name for the Caribbean, and from as early as 1550, these were considered new islands, the islands that Columbus visited on his voyages of exploration to the region, to the Americas. You see here Isla de Cuba, Isla de Hispaniola, which is Haiti and Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico at that time was called San John. And you see Trinidad at the end here. And interestingly, Bermuda is part of the Caribbean. And also this map by Munster actually includes the Canaries, so maybe they are to be considered politically the Caribbean. And Columbus came into the region and he went to the islands as well as to Panama and Honduras. So the key is that this cultural landscape of the Caribbean actually should include and should mention the exploration of Christopher Columbus as one of the key aspects to it. Now, as we look at the Dominican Republic, one of the earliest, in fact, the earliest European settlement in the Americas, Isabel in Haiti was the first, but it is Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo, which survives, and it was a city that was inhabited by the Columbus family. And so we see that this city was established as a bridge city against the port, a port city, and it's usually, we look for these patterns in the cultural landscape, the river, and in the case of Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo, it was a fortified city. So you had a city wall, a fortified wall. As we move forward, we see Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is important. It is a World Heritage City at this time, San Juan, and you see now what is emerging on the landscape is the whole fortification at the harbor. So you have the sheltered harbor and you have the fortification in a strategic position and the town being established around it. So as we begin to look at the development of cities in the Caribbean, we also remember the islands have had different colonial experiences, not just Spanish colonial, but we have French colonial and Dutch colonial. We look at St. Martin, images taken from Archivo de Indias in Seville. We see 1632, where the Spain is doing reconnaissance mapping of their territories in the region. And they're showing St. Martin because there's an important salt pond, the Salinas. And looking at it closer, you will see that there is a fortification, there's a sheltered harbor, and the cities are beginning to be established around it. St. Martin is currently divided into Dutch St. Martin and French St. Martin, both overseas territories of Europe. Now we look at Curacao, again, a Dutch colonial settlement. And in 1634, there was the Dutch invasion to take Curacao from Spain. And these maps are showing the island and the sheltered harbor. And notice that there is a fortification there. It is the current site of Williamstadt, which is on the World Heritage List. And however we look closely, we will see that the Spanish had established the settlement further inland, which is very much in keeping with the laws of the Indies from Philippe II, issuing the settlement, territorial settlement in the Americas. And we noticed that as the Dutch came in, that they began to change the settlement pattern from exterior to port cities. And we look at St. Croix, which eventually, after Dutch conquest in 1647, when they took it from Spain. Then eventually the Danes came and took the city. So it was one of a Danish colony currently under the USA, St. Croix, USA. And you will see here that there are actually 3 fortifications at the time of the Dutch invasion in 1647. So we see the general pattern that has been established. And we look at the English colonial, and we use Jamaica as an example. Port Royal was a chief military and one of the major ports of the English slave trading activity, because these ports were established for the trafficking of Africans from the continent into the Americas as part of the enslavement for plantation. So we are looking at plantation economies and the establishment of cities around this. And we see Port Royal, which had 5 forts. There was a terrible earthquake in 1692, again emphasizing vulnerabilities of the island, climate change, sea rise, hurricanes. The hurricane season is between June to November. And so after the city had been destroyed, 2/3 on the sea, under the water, they looked across the harbor, Kingston Harbor, and they established Kingston, or it was called Port Royal Harbor at the time. And the city of Kingston is important as one of the earliest grids plans. It's the second next to Philadelphia, and it has a Plaza Mayor, a central square. It is 2 miles long and 1 mile wide. And as we close, we look at Tobago. Tobago is so interesting. This is one of my favorite images in my entire collection. And it was done about 1637 when the Dutch was invading Tobago. Tobago had many of the islands, and Tobago in particular changed hands about 37 times, and they're still counting. And some of the times it moved from under the rulership of indigenous people back to Europe and so on. And here we have everyone in readiness because there's an attack on the city. When you look closely, you will see there's a large fort, and then there's a smaller fort, and you will see there's the governor's house, and there is the Población de Ingleses y Holandeses, the population of English and Dutch people, their settlement, their houses. Then if you look again, you will see very closely that there are French houses, houses for the French, and again, you see houses for the Flemish. We're speaking about the cultural diversity of the Caribbean region. And then you have the houses of the Negroes. They were called at that time, the African people lived in them. And looking very closely at this image, you will see the Africans and the indigenous population all living together within close proximity and fighting together to protect their territory from invasion. And this is the spirit of the Caribbean. This is the cultural diversity which makes it a creative place, giving the cities of the Caribbean creative cities in food, in architecture, in all kinds of things. So as we close, I just want to say thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Gracias. As we think of the Caribbean, it's wonderful Caribbean wooden treasures in the architecture, this diverse, rich space, which has much to offer on its cultural landscape as historic urban landscapes in the Americas. Thank you.